Welcome, everyone in the United States, Canada, and around the world to another episode of It's a Wrap with Rap, the podcast of overcomers and useful information to better our daily life and mental well-being. I am your host, Ron Rapaport. I would like to thank all our great listeners, our YouTube viewers on the podcast channel, It's a Wrap with Rap, the podcast uncut, and our sponsors and supporters for making the podcast such a success. Besides being heard on all major platforms throughout the world, the podcast may also be accessed from our website, itsarapwithrap.com, where you can find all the episodes, previews of future episodes, the podcast Book Nook, showcasing many of the books our guests have authored, and a link to subscribe to the podcast newsletter, as well as the products and services offered by our sponsors. My guest today is David W. Brown. Despite standing 5'3" and weighing 110 pounds, David defied expectations to become a U.S. Navy SEAL. David's journey exemplifies resilience and determination. In 1980, he began his military career at the Naval Training Center in Great Lakes, Illinois, where he was honored with the Navy League Award. Following his graduation as the honor graduate from Radarman School in Dam Neck, Virginia, David completed basic underwater demolition SEAL training, or abbreviated BUDS, with a class of 115 in 1981, and subsequently earned his Army Airborne Wings at Fort Benning, Georgia. Now, serving with distinction in underwater demolition until 1985, his operations spanned the Americas, Europe, and the Middle East and Africa. Transitioning to shore duty, David taught naval aviation water survival in Pensacola while pursuing a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Troy State University. In 1987, he embarked on a civilian career as a special agent with the National Criminal Investigative Services, better known as NCIS, followed by leadership roles at the EPA and Department of Interior. After 35 years of dedicated service, he retired and actively advocates for public safety. David has written his book titled And Goliath, the littlest Navy SEAL story about living your biggest life, chronicling his extraordinary life, highlighting unwavering perseverance against formidable odds to become a Navy SEAL. David is here with us today to give testament to the power of determination and the pursuit of one's fullest potential. With that introduction being said, I thank you, David, for your service, and I'm sure everyone listening thanks you as well, and welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Ron. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's great to have you. And I have a whole list of questions because this was a great book you wrote, and I'd like everybody to get on Amazon and go buy it. Now, let's start at the beginning of your unique story. Please tell us where you grew up and your family dynamics and what as a boy you wanted to do in life.
It's a great story. I grew up in a small town in northeastern Pennsylvania called Wilkes-Barre, and I my dad was a son of a coal miner, and my mom worked in a shoe factory. We were definitely lower class, blue collar people, and
But good people,
as
that's the best people. I actually have a lot of friends in Wilkes-Barre, so I'm familiar with that area.
okay, great. It was growing up, it was a great for me. I thought I was all about everything except for the point when that was the smallest kid in class. And from kindergarten up until I graduated from high school, I was always the smallest kid all the time. And, I had my challenges like everybody else does in school. I got picked on and I got bullied and there's, lots of stories about how, or I certainly have stories about how I was able to overcome that with my influence by my mother. My mother was a big influence. She was the one that taught me, or actually brought out, I would say, the confidence that I later on demonstrated in life and going through SEAL training and some of the other things. But my family was a great family. My parents had 5 kids, and we had a pretty good upbringing.
So I understand mom kind of taught you how to defend yourself from these bullies. What did mom have to say about that?
Yeah, well, it's about third grade, I guess it was, and I was getting picked on, and just like most kids, they don't tell
Yeah.
their parents until it
Oh,
gets to the point where it's really bad. And
or you
so,
come home with a bloody nose or something.
yeah, exactly. So I'd been pushed down, pushed around, and I went home and I told my mom what was going on, and I was crying, and so she put me on her lap and she made me make a fist, and she said, "Okay, I want you to make a fist. I want you to punch my hand, punch it over and over again till actually yeah, I started laughing. I was punching her hand. She said, "Yeah, if anybody bothers you again or picks on you, you make a fist." And you hit him, pow, right in the kisser, she used to say. And she said, "Don't let anybody pick on my little boy." And because she gave me the okay, I would say, to go
Yeah.
ahead and defend myself, I went to school the next day, and sure enough, when I got picked on after school, I told the bully, I said, "We're going to meet after school and we're going to fight this out." And we did in the alley. And we went back and forth, and he hit me and I hit him. And after we realized that really nobody was going to win this fight, we kind of just looked at each other and said, "Why are we even fighting?" And so it was a big deal for me, looking
Sure.
back on that story and saying, wow, number one, I could fight and I would if I had to. And number two, why even bother? Why do you have to fight? But fighting is part of life. And so
Yeah.
I learned a big lesson.
Yeah. I mean, you remember it to this day, so it was a big deal for sure. Now, tell us about your teenage years. I understand you were trying to make the football team, and then you were moving on to some other sport. What was that all about?
Well, when I wrote this book, I was trying to make sense of why I became the person I became. So many other people, take different directions, and some people quit, some people don't quit. And I was trying to figure out, where did my personality come from? And so when I was looking back at these stories, I thought, what were the most influential stories of my life? And as you just pointed out, I tried out for the wrestling team when I was a freshman in high school. As the story goes, I was still the smallest person, even especially on the football team. So, when an 80-pound kid runs into a 150-pound kid on the football field, the 80-pound kid loses, and I lost. And I was getting my butt kicked
Yeah.
weeks and weeks and weeks until finally I what I call, actually Robert Hill calls, the psychiatrist says, I had a quitting spiral going on. I just figured out that I didn't want to do this anymore, and it was hard and it was difficult. And I found reasons to quit, and I quit. And it was horrible. It was like the most terrible feeling I could feel in my life. And I went through a whole year of just trying to figure out, what the heck, why did I quit the football team? And so later on, I joined the wrestling team to get out of that funk of quitting. And
Right.
that helped me do a couple things. It helped me get in shape physically, because wrestling is a very difficult sport. It's just 6 minutes of just intense physical exercise trying to beat the one person that's in front of you. And so it helped me bring out some physical characteristics and mental characteristics that I like to, I'm saying in my book, that came from me genetically, that came from my grandparents and my ancestors. And this is stuff that wasn't created. It came out from the inside of me. And so in when I was wrestling, I was in a tournament. I was in the regional tournament, and I was injured in the semifinals. And I just knew I wasn't going to be able to get to the finals. But my coach pulled me aside and he says, look, you're still in this. You can still win." And I was going through that quitting spiral, as I talked about before, when I played football. And I'm like, "Oh no, I can't do this, coach. I can't do that. My arm hurts." And there was something inside of me that said, "No, you need to keep going." And I went into the finals and I won.
Wow.
I beat what was supposed to be the best wrestler at 98 pounds, as you can imagine. Like I said, I was a small kid.
Yeah.
98 pounds. I beat the district champion champion and I won the championship. And that was huge for me going forward with confidence, understanding. Quitting wasn't in my vocabulary anymore. And it was a big lesson for me because once I got into the Navy and it's going through SEAL training,
Yeah.
there was a lot to look back on for me to say how I was going to make it and not quit.
I mean, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but from what
Okay.
I understand, uh, when you did quit the football team, that was probably the only time you ever quit anything.
That was definitely the
Yeah.
switch went off in my head that I just convinced myself that I would never quit anything again.
Yeah.
And you know, there is a people look at failure in a particular way. I don't, failure isn't in my vocabulary. So no matter what happens, no matter what I try, regardless of the outcome, I always look at it as progress. So, and the situation is the one that turned that switch on for me.
Right. I mean, you had to have that failure just propelled you into success. Put it that way.
It did. It started the mentality that I
Right.
had needed to go forward. It's all about perspective, right? No matter where you are and what you're doing, you can overcome if you have the right perspective.
Exactly. Now, tell us how people telling you, quote, you can't do it, motivates you.
Luckily for my personality, that's exactly right. When somebody says you can't do something, it's fuel for my fire. I'm ready to go when somebody says that. And it happened to me a lot. When I was little, I didn't get picked for dodgeball. I was going to be the kid over here on the other team. Well, I was going to get everybody else out with the dodgeball if I wasn't picked first. So it just progressed through my life. And then when I decided I was going to go into the Navy, um, it happened to me again. If you want me to go into that story.
Well, the next question I got for you, what were the factors leading you to joining the Navy and pursuing becoming a Navy SEAL? And what were the reactions you encountered from the Navy and your family and friends? Now, as I understand it, you only stood 5'3" and 110 pounds at that time. Is that correct?
Right. Yes.
Right. So here you are. You want to join. You want to be a Navy SEAL, and obviously the people in the recruiting office are looking at you at 5'3", 110, going, come on. So tell us about that.
Uh, Growing up, I loved spy movies. I loved James Bond. I loved Jacques Cousteau. I loved Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. So all these things were in my head as to what I wanted to do when I grew up.
Right.
And I decided I was going to go to the Navy. Well, after my parents pretty much said, we're not paying for college, I needed a plan B. So I went to the Navy and talked to the recruiter, and he gave me a book of job descriptions. And so I was leafing through, I'd never heard of a Navy SEAL before, looking through the job book, and there it was called UDT at the time. UDT and SEALs were, underwater demolition team and SEALs were the same. So I looked at the description, and I'm like, wait a second, these guys jump out of airplanes. They
Yeah.
carry machine guns. They
Yeah.
blow they blow stuff up, right? And
Right.
they're like Jacques Cousteau with a machine gun. It is the perfect job for me. Everything that I ever imagined or could have imagined as being exciting was right there. And so I went to the Navy recruiter and I said, well, this is what I want to do. And he literally looked at me and laughed. He said, no, 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 no. You can't do that. You're too small.
Yeah. There he
These
said that
guys,
he said the word can't.
there you go. He said, you can't do that. You're too small. I've never known anybody to graduate from SEAL training. And, go back, look at the book, and come back to me and pick something that you can do. And so, I was at 16 actually at the time. I went
Wow.
back and I was almost listening to him. And I looked at that again and I said, no. no, no, no. This is what I want to do. And I went back to the Navy recruiter and I said, this is what I'm going to do. Sign me up and do this.
And they signed you up.
Hmm?
They signed you up, right?
He signed. Oh yeah, he was more than happy to sign me up. I had to go to radarman school first, but he said, you know what? When you get to boot camp, you try to take the screening test. If you pass, then you could go to SEAL training.
Okay. So did you prepare physically and mentally before being accepted?
Oh,
Were you doing a lot of training?
yeah, absolutely. I didn't. There was no internet back in 1980, so I had to imagine what I was going to have to do. I knew it was physically difficult, so I was a wrestler, so I was really, as far as weight to strength, I was very good weight to strength. Even though I wrestled as a senior, 98 pounds, I was still strong for a 98-pound kid.
Oh yeah.
I can lift my own weight. I could do millions of push-ups, hundreds of, pull-ups. And so I was kind of like a monkey in that regard.
Yeah.
Um, but I started running more. I started doing weight training. And that's when I went from 98 pounds all the way up to 110 pounds. So I thought I was a big guy going into the Navy
Right.
at 5'3" and 110 pounds. I think I'm, a badass.
Yeah. Right. Uh, so for our audience out there, what do the letters SEAL stand for in SEAL?
It's an acronym: Sea, Air, and Land Teams, and that's what it stands for. UDT, Underwater Demolition Team, at 1980.
Yeah.
That's where the SEALs came from. Back in World War II, uh, underwater demolition teams were the ones that cleared the beaches in Normandy and went out into the Pacific and cleared the obstacles before the Marines came ashore. And through the development of the special forces and the Navy, UDT eventually became SEAL Team in 1983.
Okay. Okay. So the Navy actually started it back in the World War II era?
Yep, that's when officially naval special warfare started, and it was in Fort Pierce, Florida, as a matter of fact, right
Oh
down the
wow.
street from us.
Right
So
down the street. Yeah, we're
that's
both
where they have the museum. Yeah.
yeah. Myself and David are a couple miles apart in Florida. Now, what distinguishes the SEALs from other special forces in the military?
I would say mainly is their ability to adapt to any environment. And SEAL teams are small platoon size special forces. They are not Army Rangers where you have 80, 90, hundreds of guys going after big targets. We were designed to do special missions, short special missions with a specific detail. Go in, capture a person, take a person out, blow up a radar tower, blow up a building, if per se. We were, that's the specificity of SEAL Team. We could get on a plane in Norfolk, Virginia, fly halfway around the world, jump out of the plane at night, land in the water, swim to shore, go capture or blow something up and escape and get in a submarine and go home.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. Now, you go through BUDS training, which is uh underwater demolition, right? Stands
Yes.
for what's BUDS? That stands for
Basic underwater demolition SEAL
right, okay,
training.
basic underwater demolition training. And you endure what they call Hell Week. For our audience out there, give us a glimpse of what becoming a Navy SEAL is like, such as the odds of getting through the tasks that are required and the mindset of the Navy as you try to become certified as a SEAL. And in many situations, you actually have to cheat death to finish the mission. So I know I don't want you to get anything secretive or anything like that, but what is that? What is it like, for our audience and Hell Week and all that?
First, I have to say that the most important factor in becoming a Navy SEAL is your ability to understand that you will do anything it takes, including risk your own life to complete the mission and to protect your teammates. And that is the most
The It's a Wrap with Rap podcast, guest and acclaimed Australian historical fiction thriller author Paul Rushworth Brown has just had his new book, Outback Odyssey, released. Paul is a true storyteller with a unique journey and a life filled with adventure and diverse experiences. From a foster home in England to a path leading him to playing soccer professionally in Canada in 1972, to reuniting with his father in 1982 in Australia, Paul honed his skills as an educator in 2002, but found his true passion and calling as a writer in 2015. Paul's historical fiction novels are a testament to his authenticity and grit, woven with unexpected twists and turns that will leave the reader breathless. With vivid narratives, he paints a realistic portrait of life in past decades, setting the stage for suspenseful, mysterious, and thrilling tales tinged with romance. Paul's latest novel, Outback Odyssey, will take you on an epic journey through 19th century Australia, blending historical adventure with a powerful mix of survival, identity, and the collision of cultures. This immersive tale follows the lives of those drawn to the vast, untamed land, some in search of opportunity, others fighting to protect what is rightfully theirs. At its heart, the book is about the story of Jimmy, a young Englishman seeking a new life in the Australian wilderness in the 1950s, which mirrors thousands of British emigrants who sought new opportunities in Australia in the wake of World War II, whereby the Australian government encouraged mass migration to bolster the workforce and expand rural settlements under the Populate or Perish initiative. Jimmy's story reflects the hopes, struggles, and cultural clashes experienced by these migrants as they navigated the complexities of their journey and new home. Through vivid storytelling, Outback Odyssey brings to life the breathtaking beauty and unforgiving harshness of the outback while exploring the struggles of those who call it home. It is a tale of friendship, betrayal, resilience, and love, woven with the profound questions of who belongs, what must be fought for, and what is truly worth saving. The book, Outback Odyssey, is available in bookstores and online.
important thing. So when you go to training, if you have a thought in your mind that anything is going to be too dangerous for you, if you have a moment of hesitation, you won't make it.
Okay.
If you're afraid of cold, if you're afraid of heights, if you're afraid of not sleeping for a week, which is Hell Week, yeah, if you have any fears, you have to dispel them right away. And the fact that they say when you go to buds that you can't quit. And I like to dispel that because that's not true. There are plenty of guys that go to buds and don't quit and don't make it. Not quitting is a prerequisite, yes, but you have to win, as I would say. You have to make the grade. You have to pass the test. You have to pass the run. You have to pass the swim. You have to pass all the requirements. Not quitting is not good enough. And I think that's a lesson not just for SEALs, but everyone in life. Not quitting is not enough to be successful. And so you asked me the question, what's it like to go to Navy SEAL training and to complete it? It is, it's hard to put into words other than anything short of dying. You have to be able to, and willing to do. So, and I came to those points when I went through training, and I had some near-death experiences for because of the training is realistic, it's real time, it's very dangerous, and people die going through that training.
Do they
So,
use, is that where they use live rounds, live bullets?
oh yes, we use live bullets, we use live demolition. We train like we are going on a mission, and they push you to the extent. Let's talk a little bit about Hell Week, for instance. Hell Week it starts Sunday and it ends on a Friday. and you operate what we call operate means work 24 hours a day for 7 days, for 6 days, I'm sorry. And during that time, when you start to go through sleep deprivation, you're in the, since we're in the Navy, we spend a lot of time in the water and it's freezing. And so you get to the point where your mind starts to play tricks on you, and you have to control your mind in these situations, because what they're looking for is to identify people who break down mentally, not just physically, they're going to break you down. They want to see who's going to mentally break down. Because
Yeah.
when you're on a mission somewhere across the world,
Right.
you cannot have the mental lapse. You cannot break down because your teammates and the mission depend on it. So you have to be rock solid. And that's what Buds brings out in people. They are going to test you to see if you, after you're physically completely broken down, after 5 days of
Yeah.
operating in very difficult conditions, they want to see, are you going to continue? Are you going to complete the mission? Are you going to finish the week?
Wow. Now, give us uh an idea, like how many people started out in your class and how many people actually finished?
117 started in my class and 23 of us finished.
Wow.
The usual attrition rate is 80% or more. And that's, remember, that's, you have to get there first. Getting there is as almost as hard as getting through there. So
Right.
you're talking 20% of the, I would say, some very hardened people. My class had NCAA track stars and the best swimmers and the best physical athletes you could imagine in my class. And I looked at them and I said, for sure they're going to make it. But what they lacked, that what they had physically, they lacked mentally. And being a SEAL is a combination of it all. You can't just be a musclehead and be in really good shape. If that were the case, everybody in the gym could be a SEAL.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you say the mental aspect is probably more important in making it than the physical aspect?
Um, uh, that's a really tough question. And I've heard that answered so many times to say, oh, it's, 90, 80% mental. If you don't have the physical attributes, then so the physical is just as important, but you cannot be just physically fit. And the mental part is, and that comes from deep inside a person. That's not something you could get when you get to training. If
Right.
you don't have that going in, it's going to be revealed quickly during training and you're going to quit.
So it's almost like it's a mindset that those people who are like you that are really, really, really want to make it and are dedicated 110%, you're going to do well probably. And the peripheral people are probably just going to drop.
There's the reasons for going to training and becoming a Navy SEAL are as important as the physical and mental part. If you're not in it for the right reasons,
Yeah.
if you're not in it to serve your country, to be a good teammate, and to be the, a protector of the United States, then you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
Because if you're worried about getting a hot shower when you've been out in the beach for 4 days, freezing your butt off under a bush, then you're gonna stand up, you're gonna walk in, you're gonna take that shower, because that's not really what your focus is on. Your focus is on yourself and not your teammates.
Yeah. Now you went through Bud's training twice due to a medical injury. And just for our audience, when I say medical injury, David had, correct me if I'm wrong, two broken legs and a groin pull. What
Yeah.
compelled you to chase that the dream, and what methods did you use to build up that mental strength? I mean, I've had groin pulls. I've never broken my legs, but I can imagine, I've had I've had knee injuries and stuff, but I can imagine, that so much pain you're going through. And then you go through it, the whole training has to be done again from the start.
Yeah, that I arrived for my first class. I arrived early. I was so excited to get out to California. I got there over a month early, and I started training early,
Yeah.
what they called pre-training. And so I was doing a lot of running, and we ran in boots. We were called jungle boots, with a hard plastic sole, and running on the uh, pavement. We did more than 24 miles a week, just running back and forth to eat, believe it or not. We ran every time we had to go eat. In the morning, we ran lunch, and dinner, we ran to the chow hall, which ended up being 24 miles a week. So anyway, you're doing a lot of running on the pavement. And so by the time I was at 8 weeks into training, I had developed these giant welts on my shins. And so I didn't know what it was. I thought it was shin splints. And I was taking basically Motrin and tried pain relievers to try to get the swelling down. And right before Hell Week on my first class, we had a 4 mile timed run. And the day before, we were doing log PT. If you know anything about SEAL training, we actually train with full size telephone poles as a group exercise. And I had pulled the groin muscle at that time. I didn't know it.
Wow.
So I go into this run, and I can barely walk.
Yeah.
And uh, after the run, I failed it miserably, but I never stopped and I never quit. I actually kept running, dragging my left leg behind me that wasn't operating anymore because the muscle had just absolutely quit on me. So I kind of looked like Igor from Young Frankenstein, dragging my leg down the beach.
Yeah.
And so they took me into the sick call and sick bay, and they had the scans done, and I had literally cracked both of my shins from running, stress fractures and multiple stress fractures in both my shins. And the instructor thought one leg was shorter than the other because the muscle in my left leg had pulled up so tight. They thought one leg was shorter than the other. Well, later on, they figured out no, that wasn't the case. It was just the muscle was so contracted. Long story short, I got rolled back to the next class. 8 weeks later, I started from the beginning. And
Wow.
but the second one, I did make it. I did graduate.
So that that grind pull and the leg injury healed itself up in a couple months.
2 months. That's how
Wow.
long it takes bones to
Yeah.
heal.
Yeah.
And when I went through the review board, I thought I was going to get kicked out of training for sure because I failed a time run, and I was injured. And what the instructor looked at me and they said, you've done pretty good on all these other things, all the physical part other than the run. And I was really good in the academics. And they said, look, anybody who can run 4 miles on two broken legs and with a pulled groin muscle gets another try at training. So they rolled me back.
That's good. That's good. I mean, they should do that. Does training ever end as a SEAL? And if not, take us through what's a day of strict training look like?
Training or being an actual SEAL?
Well, being an actual SEAL, are you still always in training?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're not actually deployed, and I'll talk about that in a second,
Yeah.
every every day you're a SEAL, you're training, 100%. When we get there, we do physical training, and then we go to whatever the next. If you're in what we call the team area in a SEAL team, I was in Little Creek, Virginia. If I was not deployed overseas, actually operating as a Navy SEAL, we were training in the team area. We were training with helicopters, training with diving, training with everything you can imagine. Because once you get out of buds, that's just the basics. That's just the know that you're able to go out and now do hardcore jumping out of airplanes, swimming long distances, running long distances, and all the special weapons and techniques that you have to learn how to do, and demolitions and more advanced demolitions you have to do. I was a dive officer, so I had to prepare everyone for all the diving operations and the closed circuit scuba, and then we were on submarines. We were jumped out of different airplanes and used different weapons. So it never stops.
I'm just curious, when you're jumping out of airplanes and you're getting out of submarine, is there a special respect level you're getting from those other military people on like on a submarine? Are they looking at you guys as just a different breed, so to speak? You know what I'm saying? Are they really looking up to you a lot?
They are. They are. When we went on board and we showed up,
Yeah,
people stood back, stood away, and let us operate. We were so intense, and I was so intense to complete the mission. It was, you could just see it in the way we moved, the way we operated, the way we held ourselves, because for instance, if we were on a submarine, those submariners knew they were going to drive this thing underwater and we were going to get lock out of it while it's underway and underwaters, something they didn't do.
right.
The only reason they would do that is if it was a life and death situation. For us, it was to get to do the mission, to lock out of the submarine, get our boats on the surface, go do a mission and come back. They were our
Right.
transportation.
Yeah.
And so you know, I would say that most other military, even though the military service, when we walked in, people knew that we were different.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure there was a high level of respect for what you did. Now, since SEALs are not, quote, most people, what do you and the other SEALs have inside of you to persevere and keep your energy up all the time? What do you think? What do you think that's from?
I'm pretty sure it's genetic, um, that we have certain personalities, characteristics that are similar. Of course, we're not genetically connected,
Right.
but when I wrote my book, I was trying to figure out again, why am I like this? Why can I not sit still? Why do I have to keep moving forward to the next mission and to the next mission? And I read a book called Blueprint from Robert Plomin, who's a behavioral geneticist, and that really gave me kind of like the light bulb went on. And he says, your genetics aren't what is going to happen, but it's what you are. Everything that you can be comes from the insides, comes from your genes. Now you have to develop those things, and you have to identify them. You have to understand yourself in order to get to be the best person that you can be, and
Yeah.
to take advantage of the talents that you have. And, people say all the time, well, he's or she's a natural at this, or you're really just naturally good at that. And they are, because it's genetic. They are genetically inclined to be good at that. I'm not going to be in the NBA anytime soon. I could tell you that. So, but
Yeah. Yeah,
when
exactly. Somebody like Michael Jordan, take him for example. He just walks on the court, does his thing. I mean, the podcast is so happy and proud to have Blue Sky CBD as one of our sponsors and supporters. At Blue Sky CBD, they know that the highest quality CBD starts from the seed. Blue Sky partners with sustainable, responsible farms for superior hemp plants to extract their CBD and other healthful phytonutrients. Each of Blue Sky's products contain high concentrations of CBD for maximum impact, and Blue Sky offers some of the lowest cost per milligram CBD on the market. All Blue Sky's products are THC free and are tested by a third party laboratory for potency and purity. All this has made Blue Sky one of the only CBD brands trusted by healthcare professionals across the United States. As the demand for CBD and its therapeutic potential have grown rapidly worldwide, it is difficult to know which products you can trust. At Blue Sky CBD, they just don't sell their products, they use their products. Blue Sky CBD proudly shares testimonials of their loved ones who use these products. Blue Sky CBD guarantees the potency and purity of each and every product they sell. Blue Sky tests their products 3 times. First, the plant is tested, next, the isolate, and last, the final product to ensure each product batch meets Blue Sky's high standards. A copy of the certificate of analysis is linked below each product description online. The Blue Sky CBD website contains client testimonials, including a case study for each testimonial from the people just like you regarding people dealing with severe anxiety and insomnia, high blood pressure, pain management, headache, rheumatoid arthritis and spondylitis, and endocrine balance. Blue Sky even makes the product Pet Love for our canine and feline family members. Blue Sky CBD uses CBD derived from hemp that is THC free, which is drug free and can be sold everywhere legally in the United States. Blue Sky CBD wants you to feel confident with your purchase and offers you excellent customer service. If you are not satisfied with their products, you may request a refund of the full purchase price within 30 days of the product received date. When ordering, please use the podcast link to receive 20% off your initial purchase. The link and website information will be listed in the podcast notes. That's what he does. He's genetically predisposed to doing that.
Yep. Yeah. And he knew it and he loved it and he developed it to be the best.
Yeah. He didn't have to think about it. He just went out and did it.
You look at all the medalists, the Olympic medalists, and there's one guy I quote in my book who's an Olympic wrestler. He said when he was 10 years old, he knew he was going to win the gold medal. He just knew it. And I really believe people inside know what they're meant to do and know what they're really good at. And it's just a matter of identifying it and then chasing that with reckless abandon, like I did in to be a SEAL. I thought my life was to be a Navy SEAL, and then I found out I had a lot more to do besides becoming a Navy SEAL.
Yeah, yeah. Did, did you experience any environmental health hazards being a SEAL? I know there's got to be some health hazards doing that.
Yeah. Well, number one, I can't. My hearing is almost completely shot. I wear hearing aids. So from all the demolitions and the explosives that we did, pretty much destroyed my hearing.
Yeah,
We are around a lot of carcinogens with the weapons and the demos that we do. And today they take a lot better care of not exposing people to those things. But literally, I never had earplugs. I used to use spent casings from when we shoot, the casings that would come out, I would stick those in my ears to
oh
try to
wow,
prevent the ringing.
wow, yeah. That probably didn't do too much.
Obviously not. I just
Would
wear hearing aids.
have been better off with earwax, huh?
Yeah, pretty much anything, but it was better than nothing, I guess
Yeah.
is the way to say it.
Now, your transition from military to civilian life after learning all these deadly skills, what is that transition like? And does the military prepare you for that transition? I've talked to a lot of veterans on this podcast, and the answer is generally no.
No, I agree with them. The Navy, maybe they're different now, but I could tell you, something I said in my book is, they trained me to be, I don't want to say a killer because that's not the right way. They trained me to complete a mission
Yeah.
and to be solely focused on that. And I got married and I had a kid, and I could tell you, you go from jumping out of airplanes and shooting at stuff and blowing things up to, don't forget on the way home, pick up a birthday or wedding anniversary card for your wife. And,
Yeah.
you got to color with your daughter when she's, at the table. It's, it's really difficult you're so set in a particular way to blend those two worlds. And so when you are ready to get out of the military, you're still locked, I would say locked and loaded into that mentality. And that's why so many guys in special forces, not just SEAL teams, but that's why they get divorced, because separating those two worlds is just or blending them, I should say, is almost impossible. And fell I fell victim to the same thing. Is I got out of the Navy and I was still 100% charged and going ahead to complete the next mission.
Right. Yeah, so it does take a toll on family life, and I would assume the divorce rate is rather high.
Yeah, high as in like as much as it is in completing Buzz is 80%. I would say the divorce rate is like 80%
Wow.
in the teams.
Wow. And really the Navy doesn't really, I mean, they know it's high, but they don't really, do they address that issue at all?
Not when I was in. It was never if a personal problem came to work, it was seen as a weakness.
Mm.
And you could show no weakness. If you showed a weakness, it was exploited by other team guys because a weakness meant that you would be weak during the mission. So
You would be
there's
the,
no room for emotion. There was no room for physical weakness, no room for mental weakness. And if that meant, not being home for your family, so be it.
yeah, you'd be considered the weak link in the chain, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's what they thought then. I think it's different. I hope it's different now, but the strong family life means a strong professional life,
Yeah.
and at least in my opinion.
Yeah. Now let's talk about your book, which I read. It's a great book. It's titled "And Goliath: The Littlest Navy SEAL Story About Living Your Biggest Life." Did I quote that right?
Yeah, I think and Goliath, the Littlest Navy SEAL's inspirational story about living your biggest life. Long
Right.
subtitle, but I wanted people to understand um, this is not so much a combat Navy SEAL where I'm going to talk about going overseas and shooting at people. This is a life story.
Right, right. Now, how did you get that name for the title of the book, and what gave you the drive or the impetus to write the book?
Um, th that was not my title. In fact, that was given to me after the original title, believe it or not, and you're going to be the first one that ever told this, was The Littlest Seal, was the original title of the book. And then
And that was your idea, The Littlest Seal?
The Littlest Seal, yeah, that
Yeah.
was the original title.
That would
And
make a good title, yeah.
and I did some analysis of it, and people came back and said, "Well, it sounds like a children's book."
Yeah. I guess in
And
some people's mind it could, yeah.
yeah, so when I was working with an editor, he said, what about this and Goliath? And I was like, wow, that really stuck with me. Number one, my name's David, so the
Yeah,
and Goliath part made sense. It was
yeah,
a thinking person's title, and
right.
it illustrates the struggles that the book talks about. Now,
Okay.
the reason why I wrote the book, wow, that's like almost a therapy session there because I had a great career. I mean, I did things people would never couldn't even think about doing. I was a Navy SEAL. I was special agent. I did undercover work. I was a federal executive, and I retired. And I couldn't sit still. I was not. I look back at my life and I thought, I'm not successful. Why don't I feel successful? And so it was this journey to go back and examine who I was and why I became the person I was. And in doing that,
Oops, I think we're breaking up. Oh no. Eh, I think we might have lost David for a minute. You there, David?
yep, I'm
Okay,
here.
I think we lost you on Zoom for a minute.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay.
Start
So
over if you
I don't
want.
know where I got cut off, but I was talking about the why I wrote the book.
Right.
Did you get that part or not?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
With the great career you had and everything. And you got out and you know. You were still trying to do the mission.
Yeah, exactly. It was ingrained in me from, well, you know what? I won't say it was ingrained from SEAL team. It was ingrained for me when I was a little kid. I
Yeah.
was I was always like that. And I talked to my brothers or my sisters or my parents. They were like, you were always like that. You were always going to do that thing. And so Navy just gave me I was the pencil. The Navy just sharpened my point for me when it came to how I was going to do that. And so even today, so now, I did all these other things. After I got out of once I retired, I started acting as in theater.
Oh,
I did
really?
I did a volunteer work. I was the chairman for our planning and zoning commission. I was, I just couldn't stop. And in basically at the end of what you said, I'm an advocate for public safety. I still have to do that. As in my book, I call it the sheepdog syndrome, and I just have that part of my personality where I am the protector. So if I see someone out in an unsafe situation in my neighborhood, I have to be the one to get it corrected.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, you realize you're here for a purpose and you have to do what you have to do.
Exactly, and it's there's another story I tell in the book. Robert Hill, the psychologist, studied a gentleman, a Polish gentleman. His name was Doba, Alexander Doba, and maybe you've heard of him. He's the guy who's 50 some years old. Decides he's going to paddle his kayak across the Atlantic Ocean. Well, he didn't do it once. He did it 3 times. I mean, that is some persistence. And when they asked Doba, was this your life goal? He said, no, I was destined to do it. I didn't have a choice. It was something I had to do. And that story just hit home for me is when I do certain things, whether it was become a SEAL or a special agent or reach the levels I did in the federal government or write a book, it was just something, it was inevitable. I know it was going to happen. I just had to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, who is when you wrote the book, who do you think the book is for and what do you expect the reader to get out of it?
Uh, the book, the book is really for anybody and everybody who's facing a challenge in their life and wondering about what is success for them, how to be the best person they could be. I would love, people who are experiencing a challenge, any kind of challenge, to read about it because, the challenges I faced, I think most people do face them. It's just that the ones that I accomplished and overcame were, most people would say it is insurmountable. There's no way you could have done those things. And and I'm just a regular guy from Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, from coal country. And I'm nothing special. So if I can do these things, everybody can be the best person they can be. So it, I want, I would like to have anybody who's having a challenge in their life to read the book.
Well, number one, I don't think you're just anybody. In my book, you're a hero. Okay. So, and I think you're a hero in in most people's mind. Yeah, I know you're a humble guy, but that's how I look at you. Uh, where can one find the book?
You can go to my website at udtdave.com
Okay.
and you can get it there. And I even do signed copies if you'd like a signed copy, which I've been signing a lot of books, which is really great. I really enjoy that.
Okay. Now, so it's on Amazon for everybody. Now, as you have matured looking back, uh, what do you think success is for you? What is success for you? Let's put it that way.
That's that was the hardest thing for me to understand. What does success means? And the reason that for me, success is knowing that I am perfectly okay every day getting up and being the person that I am and being my my happiness is the journey. It's not the certificate, it's not the title. Had the certificates, I had all the titles, and I was never felt successful. For me, now I get up and I understand. I feel successful that I am getting up and being the person that I discovered that I was. That's the beautiful thing. And that's until you stop chasing other people's definition of what success is, becoming the whatever it is, or earning that amount of money. It's up here. This is where your success this is where home needs to be in
Yeah.
success right here.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll never be happy. I was
Uh,
never happy. I was always trying to get to that next thing.
right.
Finally, finally, I realized that.
It's almost like you take a football player and they win the Super Bowl, right? And then they get the trophy or whatever, or the ring, and then they go, well, now what?
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
so I got the ring, yeah, but now what? So, yeah, I 100% agree with you. It's all up here. So, as we wrap up, what advice do you have for people out there struggling with their life issues and challenges to get through them?
The number one advice I have is that understand determination and persistence equals perseverance, and that every day you have to wake up understanding that it's not going to be all roses and chocolates and everything's going to be happy every day, but there are going to be those days. But it's getting through the hard times that is the most important, and that's a daily thing. So perseverance, you have to understand what you're good at and just keep hammering away at it.
Well, good advice. And I want to thank you, David, for being on the podcast, sharing your amazing story. I wish you all the best on what you call your next evolution going forward. And once again, thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Comments and suggestions for the podcast, you can email me at it's a wrap with rap at gmail.com. We're on Facebook. It's a wrap with rap. We have a Facebook group. It's a private group. So if you want to join, you're welcome to join. It's called It's a Wrap with Rap. We're on X or Twitter at Rapper, WRAPPER 130. We're on Instagram. It's a Wrap with Rap podcast. And of course, our website is it's a wrap with rap.com, and all the episodes are on YouTube. It's a wrap with rap, the podcast uncut. I want to thank everyone for listening or viewing. I want everyone to please stay safe. And for now, it's a wrap.